This is the story of an ordinary student who dreamed of becoming the strongest in the world. He wanted to have the ability to resist any powerful weapons. Even though he trained every day to get stronger, he knows it was still not enough to achieve his desired ability. One night, after his training, he ran onto the road and unfortunately got hit by a truck. He immediately died but was reborn in another world with his memory intact. After seeing a girl who would become his sister, he soon realized that he had ended up in a world where people use magic. So he thought that this was a perfect world for his dream of becoming the strongest. He was named Cid, and after a few years, he immediately acquired great power, but he hid it to others. Even though he and his sister Claire were on training, he did not show how skilled he was. Every night, Cid attacked the evil groups of people in their area. During one of his operations, he saw a monster being imprisoned. He took it to his hideout to conduct an experiment to it. A month later, he succeeded in his experiment on the monster and he was able to remove the curse from it. This monster turned out to be a female elf. Cid told this elf that the curse was put on her by a devil cultists who planned to revive the great demon. Then he introduced himself as Shadow and he named this elf as Alpha. This was when their organization was formed, which they called Shadow Garden. And their goal was to save others like Alpha who suffered from evil curses and fight the cults. By Claire's 15th birthday, she would study as a student at Midgar Academy, but on the day of her departure, she suddenly disappeared from her room. Alpha led the search for Claire, as the other members immediately tracked down the place where she was taken. So Cid summoned the 7 shadows for the mission of saving his sister Claire. While the leader of those who abducted Claire was talking to her, he was not aware that the 7 shadows were attacking his colleagues. When he realized what was happening, Alpha fought against him. He swallowed a drug that made him stronger. He pierced his sword through the floor to escape, but he met Shadow on his way. The two of them fought. Since he was only beaten by Shadow, he used another drug that gave him great power. But it still did not work on Shadow's strength and he lost in their fight. After they rescued his sister, she continued to go to Midgar Academy. One day, Cid met his beautiful followers and they also bid their goodbye to him for the meantime. A few years later, at the age of 15, Cid also enrolled in the school where his sister attended. There he met his 2 friends, Skell and Poe. They had a bet that whoever among the 3 of them get the lowest score in the test that took place the other day would be punished. The punishment was to approach the princess of Midgar, named Alexia, and confess his love to her. Alexia was the most popular girl in their school. Unfortunately, no one among the guys who tried to court her had gotten her approval to become someone's girlfriend yet. When they saw the result, Cid got the lowest score among them, so he must do the punishment. In the afternoon after class, Cid approached Alexia and did this while his friends were watching from a distance. He pretended to be shaking and nervous, but he was expecting that Alexia would just reject him. To his surprise, it did not happen because Alexia suddenly agreed to be his girlfriend. Cid became famous as the students had their eyes on him when the news spread that Alexia was now his girlfriend. Alexia suddenly came to sit beside him and had their meals together. Alexia also invited him to join the fencing class. Because of her influence, she was able to include Cid in her class even though he was only from the lowest section. The teacher in this class was named Zenon and he was the man agreed by their parents to marry Alexia. This was the reason why Alexia decided to accept Cid as her boyfriend and pretended to be in love with him because she did not want to marry Zenon. She chose Cid because she thought he belonged to the lower class of people and she assumed that he could make him follow her commands with a small amount of money. And she was not disappointed because as long as there was money at stake, Cid seemed to obey her commands. As agreed, the 2 of them continued to pretend as lovers. The next day, while they were about to enter the school, 3 men were waiting for Cid. They accused him of abducting Alexia because he was the last person she was with before her disappearance. He was taken to a room and was tortured in order to make him confess where he brought Alexia. He pretends to be hurt by what was being done to him so those who torture him would consider him a normal person. Alexia woke up and found herself tied to a bed in a prison. Then she saw a monstrous woman beside her. A man suddenly came there with injections to draw blood from her. He said he needed her blood for the experiment that they were currently doing. After torturing Cid, he was released in the afternoon, but there were still people following him on his way home. When he entered his room, Alpha was there waiting for him. They talked and Alpha gave him an update on Shadow Garden's operations. They knew that the abduction of Alexia was done by the cultists because they were after her blood. Before Alpha left, she asked Cid if he wanted her to eliminate those who were following him. A few hours later, Beta came to give an update on the operation that they would be doing. She also informed Cid that all the shadows were ready. Cid went down to face the 2 cult members because he knew they planted evidence in his place which could be used as a reason to arrest him again. Suddenly 2 people fell down and they were surprised because these were the ones they ordered to follow Cid. They were also immediately killed by Cid and their mission began. Meanwhile, Alexia was so weak after all that was done to her. The man came again and this time he was carrying a large injection filled with blood. He injected it into the female monster and it suddenly grew to be a horrible creature. The monster immediately killed the man who injected her with blood. Then she released Alexia from being tied, but it suddenly went wild and destroyed the place to escape. So Iris, Alexia's sister, fought it using her sword. But no matter how strong the attacks she did to it, it only regenerates itself quickly. Iris thought of chopping the monster into small pieces so it could be difficult for the monster to regenerate. Alpha intervened and told her that the monster was having a hard time with what she was doing. So Alpha did something to the monster and it immediately returned to its human form. Alexia started to walk to find the way out. She suddenly met Zenon and she was surprised to find him there. Zenon told her that he was the owner of the facility and funded the experiments. Because of Alexia's anger, she rushed at him and the two of them fought. Zenon easily defeated her. Then Shadow appeared and introduced himself to the two of them. Zenon made an attack to him but was surprised by its speed. They continued to fight and Zenon was emitting powerful auras to show off, but it seemed like Shadow was not taking the fight seriously. Alexia noticed Shadow's style of using the sword as if it was just ordinary like how she wielded it. Since Zenon could not defeat Shadow in any way he could, he decided to use his last weapon. He drank the red medicine and he changed his form into a big and strong monster-like creature. He immediately attacked Shadow but he could not even hit him. And Shadow just beat him up. Then Shadow released a very powerful aura and immediately finished off Zenon with just one strong attack. After this, Iris saw Alexia, and she rushed to hug her sister. The next day, Cid and Alexia talked. She begged him to continue in pretending as lovers. But Cid refused her and this made Alexia attack him. While Cid was walking while bleeding, he bumped into Sherry. Meanwhile, the other Shadow members met to discuss the results of their operation the other night. There were also new update on their continued search and investigation of the cults. They learned that a group was using their organization's name to do evil things. One day, Iris and Alexia went to Sherry to show them something they found in the facility of the cult where they fought the other night. They believed that Sherry could find out more in-depth information about this matter because Sherry was known for her researching skill. Meanwhile, Cid and his friends went to visit the newly developed store. While standing in line, a woman approached them, who was an employee of the said store. She invited Cid if he could do their survey. Cid agreed and accompanied her inside the store. They reached the top floor of the building and saw a woman named Gamma who was also a Shadow Garden member. Then he found out that she was the owner of this shop. She informed Cid that she used the idea he gave her to build a business. Cid could not believe the result of what she did. Though he was convinced that Gamma was the smartest of the 7 shadows, but the only problem was her clumsiness. Once settled, they also talked about the imposter who introduced herself as Shadow Garden. Gamma also introduced Niyu as their new member and even Alpha recognized her fighting prowess. After that, the three of them hurried home because they might be caught for the curfew time. Suddenly Cid felt something strange and stopped running. Cid pretended to have a stomach ache and told Skell and Poe to go home first. He knew Alexia was nearby and fighting the Shadow Garden imposters. When they cornered Alexia, Shadow came to help her and immediately killed one of them. The other two ran away quickly but Shadow still caught up and killed one of them. Niyu appeared and begged Shadow to let her take care of the opponent. The enemy immediately attacked Niyu but she was able to kill the imposter first. While in the library, Cid was thinking about who he would give his chocolate. Then he decided that the first woman he would meet was the one to receive it. As he was about to leave, Sherry came carrying a lot of books. She placed it beside him so he gave the chocolates to her. While Cid was walking to school and he immediately felt that Niyu was following him. They talked and she gave him an update about those they caught the other night. Niyu told him that the person had lost its mind after being brainwashed so she could not get any information. The mastermind took children who could use magic from the orphanages and those from poor families so they could create devils. These imposters also used the name of the Shadow Garden to force the true members of the organization to reveal themselves. She had given a lot of information to him but what was on Cid's mind was the duel event that would take place. Cid was forced to join the duel because of the insistence of Skell and Poe. He agreed to join since he was planning to do something. He was going to fight against Rose, the student council president. He pretended to be weak and let himself to always get hit by the sword. In spite of this, he also stood up after each attack. When Rose was about to use her strong magic for her next attack, the referee cut off the fight and immediately declared Rose as the winner. Sherry called him and they both talked while having coffee. Sherry gave him a bag of cookies to show her gratitude from the chocolate she received. She also told Cid that she wanted to be friends with him. Since Cid did not see any problem with this, he agreed to be her friend. Sherry's foster father joined their conversation and he recognized him too. Then he realized that the woman in front of him was Sherry Barnett. One day while they were in the classroom, Rose and a girl entered for the upcoming election. While Rose's companion was explaining the details of the upcoming election, Cid suddenly felt something strange. Suddenly, a group of men barged in and introduced themselves as Shadow Garden members. Rose was about to try and fight but she could not use her magic. Suddenly a man attacked Rose, so Cid immediately pushed her, causing him to be hit by the sword. Because of this, another girl was impressed by his heroism. He pretended to be dead and was left in the room while other students were brought to the auditorium. When no one else was around, he got up and healed his wound. While Sherry was studying the artifact, an enemy named Rex came in through the window. Sherry's guards, named Glenn and Marco, immediately entered and helped Sherry escape. They already knew that the enemies wanted the artifact, which was on Sherry's care. Cid was targeting Aang, killing the enemies he could see below. As Sherry walked to go to the room where the book with information about magic was placed, Cid secretly helped her so the enemies would not catch her. When she was about to fall down the stairs, he caught her and accompanied her in finding the book. When they found it, Sherry told him that the artifact used in their school that prevented the use of magic was the so-called Eye of Avarice. She added that she could stop it with the artifact she was currently studying. Sherry planned to get to the auditorium through the basement tunnel. She had a hunch that the Eye of Avarice was there because the students were gathered in that area. If she could activate the artifact she was holding near the Eye of Avarice, it would be stopped. But she left the things she needed in her room, so Cid volunteered that he would get her things for her. While Rex was looking for Sherry with the 4 assistants, Cid attacked them until Rex was left alone. Even though Rex was using his strongest magic, Cid was just beating him until he ended up in a room full of his dead comrades that Cid had killed. He was terrified by what he saw and Cid finished him immediately. Miyu saw the dead bodies of Glenn and Marco, whom she also knew personally. When Cid came, she gave a report that the shadows had entered school and were just waiting for his order. While Iris Group was also outside the school, Cid asked her help in finding the things Sherry was asking for. When they completed collecting all of these things, he returned to Sherry. Iris Group could not take action because of the magic surrounding the entire school. Miyu went inside the auditorium and pretended to be a captive. She would give a signal to Gamma's group, which was already above the auditorium. When she was done with the preparations, Sherry tried to activate the artifact and succeeded in doing so. She immediately went to the basement tunnel that led to the auditorium. While the leader of the Shadow Garden imposters was wondering that Rex had not yet returned. They were all surprised when they heard a gunshot. The enemies started shooting other students one by one. When Sherry arrived at the auditorium, she immediately used the artifact and the magic surrounding the school disappeared. When Rose felt this, she immediately rushed at the enemy and told the students to attack the others as well. The students rushed quickly and followed Rose's command. So the leader of the enemies ordered to kill the students. It simply took the artifact thrown by Sherry. Suddenly, Shadow and other members of the Shadow Garden arrived. While the Shadow Garden members were fighting the enemies, Rose saw this as an opportunity to tell the students to leave the auditorium. Sherry ventured to look for her foster father, but she noticed the gas leak. After a few seconds, the building burst into flames. While Gamma and other members were outside, they also noticed that the other school buildings were also on fire. This was done by the leader of the enemy, who also left after accomplishing this. The group of Iris was able to enter the school and help the students. She saw Rose and found out the whole incident, that there were 2 groups who introduced themselves as Shadow Garden and were currently fighting when they escaped. The Shadow Garden killed the enemies, and Gamma's group also got what they needed from the school. They were just waiting for Shadow to eliminate the leader of the enemy. The leader of the enemy took the books one by one in a room and burned them on the floor. Cid appeared to him and already knew that the leader of the enemies was the assistant principal of the school and Sherry's foster father, Lutheran Barnett. Lutheran started to tell Cid his past as well as how he met Sherry's mother, who was also a good researcher. When she saw the Eye of Avarice artifact, which she had been looking for a long time, she planned to give it to the government's care because it was a dangerous thing. But Lutheran did not like the idea, so he killed her, which until now Sherry still did not know about it. The 2 of them fought and Cid pretended to be defeated easily. But Shadow appeared and Lutheran used the Eye of Avarice on his body. It gave him great power, but no matter what he did to attack Shadow, he could not hit him. He used his strongest attack, but he was the only one who got injured. He attacked Shadow again, and he also told him that he had already arranged what he had to do. He wanted Shadow to be blamed for everything that happened and be recognized as the traitor of the whole world. Shadow replied that he did not care if he did it because the Shadow Garden never meant to take the road to be good or bad. He clarified that they only take the path they wanted. Shadow pierced Lutheran's arms and legs one by one, and he also did to him what Lutheran did to Sherry's mother. He left immediately, but Sherry was there, who saw how her foster father died. And he chose not to tell her the truth. While Cid was leaving school because of the early vacation that was given to them due to the destruction of the entire school, Sherry met him to say goodbye. He thanked Cid for his help and decided to just study at Lagos. She added that she had no reason to stay there. Because of the early vacation, the other students went to their respective homes. Since Cid had no plans to do at home, he just hid from his sister so she would not take him back. He received a letter from Alpha for their next mission, and it was in the Sacred Land. Meanwhile, the Shadow members, Beta and Epsilon, faced each other to argue about who was noticed more by Cid between them. In the middle of their argument, Niu came to inform them of the new mission sent by Alpha. On the other hand, the sisters Alexia and Iris went to Gamma's shop so Alexia could shop for things that she would use in her upcoming departure to the Sacred Land. Cid started a trip to the Sacred Land and Rose was with him. He could actually get to the Sacred Land quickly, he just had to wait for it to get dark and run very fast. But he chose to take the train like an ordinary person, but he realized that he made a mistake in this decision. Because when he arrived at the train station, Rose saw him, and this was the reason why they were together on the trip. When they arrived at the Sacred Land, they started looking at the goods sold on the streets. While the two of them were walking, Rose saw her favorite writer, Natsumi, who's giving her autograph to those who bought his books. Rose immediately lined up and take the opportunity to get her favorite writer's autograph. As Cid looked at the displayed books on the shelf, he noticed that these were the same books he had read in his previous life. He was thinking that this might not be a coincidence and that maybe someone else like him has reincarnated and lived in the same world. He went to the line and found out that it was Beta. And like Gamma, she also used the information she learned from Cid. Because Beta liked literature, she wrote the stories she learned and published the books. He thought that Beta was just getting an idea from those he shared to her, but it turned out she copied the whole story. Instead of an autograph, Beta put all the details about their next mission in the book. Alpha went to the cathedral and found the murdered body of Archbishop Drake. Other colleagues of the Archbishop arrived and they saw Alpha leaving, and she was blamed for what happened. They immediately ordered to close the entire cathedral to prevent Alpha from leaving the area. As Cid was eating ice cream while observing the area from above, he noticed someone was running on the roof of a building. When the person descended, he noticed Cid approaching, so he attacked him. He only hit the spoon used by Cid in the ice cream he had eaten. Someone attacked the man from above and it died instantly. It turned out to be Epsilon. Then she informed Cid about the current status of the mission, including the assassination of the Archbishop and its perpetrator. The next day, Cid decided to take a bath in the hot spring, but Alexia was also there, who was shocked to see him enter the area. While Cid was just relaxing, Alexia felt awkward and could not stand it anymore, so she talked to Cid. Cid asked what made her go to the Sacred Land. Alexia replied that she was a special guest for the goddess trial. Since Cid did not know anything about the goddess trial, Alexia explained it to him. The goddess trial was held once a year when the door of the sanctuary opened for a ritual battle. That the ancient warriors would wake up from the sanctuary and fight anyone who challenged them in a battle. Alexia also mentioned about the assassination of the Archbishop, and one of her goals in coming to the Sacred Land was to audit him. Cid changed the topic and told her to stop staring at his Excalibur. To hide her embarrassment, she described it more like a worm. So he replied that she should not immediately judge it based on its external appearance. Then he stood in front of Alexia at the same time, which caught her off guard. Cid got out of the bath and Alexia was left there stunned. The day had arrived for holding the goddess trial. A lot of people attended, including Rose and Beta, better known to most as Natsumi. While the incumbent Archbishop Nelson was speaking, Alexia remembered his refusal on her to conduct an audit on the late Archbishop. When Natsumi's name was shouted, Alexia turned her attention to the girl next to her. While Natsumi turned her head and glared at Alexia, she thought that she was more deserving for the times when Alexia was with Cid or Shadow. In Alexia's annoyance, she stepped on Natsumi's foot while Rose just smiled while watching Cid. The battle started until Cid's name was called as one of the challengers, which surprised Alexia and Natsumi. Cid was thinking about his possible choices once he entered the arena. First, he thought to fight as Cid, but if a strong ancient warrior came out, viewers might thought that he had strong powers. Second is to ran away, but the name of his school had been mentioned and he might be removed and put the entire school into shame for cowardice once he did this. And the third was what he thought would be better for him. So he fought as Shadow, and his opponent was Aurora, known as the Witch of Calamity. Since Alexia and Rose did not know anything about her, Beta told them how powerful Aurora was. Then Beta begged Nelson to tell more what he knew about Aurora. So Nelson said that she was the most powerful sorceress in history. He added that Shadow was just unlucky that she was the one who would fight him, because he surely could not do anything to harm Aurora. But Alexia did not agree with what Nelson said, because if this person came out as Shadow's opponent, then Shadow's strength was definitely at Aurora's level. Aurora made her attack first, but all of these attacks were just dodged by Shadow. She continued to attack him until Shadow had his chance to counter hers. And he immediately defeated Aurora with just one attack. Shadow left immediately after Aurora disappeared. The barrier in the arena gradually cracked, and when it was broken, a door to another dimension was formed. A large part of the city was filled with red light. Even though Shadow was already outside, the door in the arena appeared to him. Then he realized that it would not stop following him no matter where he went. As soon as he thought of the person he had fought, he decided to enter this door that would take him to another dimension. Nelson could not believe that the door to the sanctuary would appear immediately in the middle of the goddess trial just after Shadow's fight. Because this door is about to open, Nelson immediately informed that people were not allowed to come near it and just leave the arena. Alpha, Delta and Epsilon arrived with other Shadow Garden members. Alexia told them not to take any action until the door was behind. Delta immediately rushed Nelson and they both fought. She noticed something different, and so did Alpha. It turned out that as they got closer to the center of the sanctuary, their power were being absorbed. And Nelson, on the other hand, was getting stronger as he got closer to the center. Nelson thought he had the advantage, but to his surprise, his female opponents were even stronger than he expected. Delta showed how strong she was as she used her iron slab and smashed Nelson's clones. Meanwhile, the other members of Shadow Garden wandered around the facility. Then they saw someone that looked like a zombie. As it approached them, Epsilon went near it. When they met, it became like the soul of a child and suddenly disappeared. They arrived at the location of the data on the experiments done by the cults. They found there the information that would help them in their investigation of the cults and the devils. While Cid and Aurora were brought to the place where the ancient battle took place. In the wide pit they saw the young Aurora again. Aurora borrowed Cid's sword, and when she was about to kill the young Aurora, she was suddenly attacked by those who died in the battle. Fortunately, Cid quickly saved her. One by one, the corpses that were lying earlier stood up and approached them. They fought against them and knocked down most of the corpses. Cid attacked the young Aurora with his sword, then they were transferred to the center of the sanctuary. They saw the sword that was the only thing that could break the chains that blocked the door. When Cid tried to pull out the sword, Aurora saw what was written below, that only the descendants of the owner of the sword could pull it out. Delta also continued to fight Nelson's other clones until they were returned to the area where Olivier's statue was built. Nelson got Olivier out while the group Epsilon came to inform Alpha that they had finished their investigation. They immediately left the area as Nelson and Olivier stayed behind. Suddenly, Nelson received information that someone had entered the center of the sanctuary. While Cid and Aurora were talking, Nelson and Olivier arrived. Cid immediately noticed that Nelson's female companion resembled Alpha. Nelson ordered Olivier to kill Cid, so she started to attack him. With Olivier's speed, she was able to hit Cid many times with her attacks. But Nelson was annoyed because Cid was still alive. Aurora stopped him from continuing the fight with Olivier. She told him that she would find other way for him to get out of the sanctuary. Then Nelson interrupted that if she cooperated with him, he would not let Cid live. She was about to agree to Nelson's offer, but Cid interrupted their conversation. He told them that he was insulted by what the two were talking about. He did not like how they made him appear as someone who could not beat Olivier, and told him that he did not need Aurora's help. And because of Nelson's annoyance, he told Olivier to attack, so she stabbed Cid. But Cid smiled and opened one of his eyes. He grabbed Olivier and bit her, causing her to immediately disappear. As Cid approached Nelson, he released more of Olivier's clones. He ordered some of these clones to attack Cid at the same time. So Cid opened his eye and easily defeated them. Nelson was shocked when he saw Cid's weapon and that he was able to use magic. Cid told him that he just needed to make his magic more solid so that it would not be easily absorbed by the sanctuary. Nelson got pissed and ordered all clones to attack him at the same time. So Cid unleashed his great power while Alpha and other Shadow Garden members marveled as they watched outside. Even the two princesses were shocked by this extreme power. Cid saw the demon's broken arm bound and Aurora's face as well. Then he suddenly woke up next to her. When Aurora was about to touch him, her hand gradually disappeared. Before Aurora disappeared completely, she thanked Cid for the memory she had with him. Meanwhile, as they were walking back, Alexia had a lot going on in her mind about the things that happened, including the Shadow Garden and the cults. She wanted to gather more information on the things that happened in the ongoing battle. She offered Rose and Beta to work with her in what she planned to do. And both agreed with her. Epsilon gave a report to Alpha about the complete destruction of the sanctuary and the Holy Sword. She added that they were not able to recover a sample from its magical core. They also discussed Beta's mission to socialize with the princesses. Epsilon confirmed that their theory was also correct, that Aurora had another name and it was the demon Diablo. After that, Alpha asked her to prepare for their next mission, and it was to the royal capital of Midgar. As their mission continued, Gamma talked to an agent who was selling land in Madlid. While this agent was encouraging her to buy the land, Niu entered and informed her that it was confirmed that there was petroleum in the area. Gamma immediately agreed to agent's offer and purchased the land. Niu also ordered others to begin purchasing lands around the Nile River. Gamma announced to Alpha the upcoming visit of the Royal Chancellor of Oriana, named Perv Ashat, to the royal capital of Midgar. While bathing, Alexia and her sister Iris talked about what happened in the sacred land. What they discussed included the upcoming visit of the King of Oriana, who was one of the allies of their kingdom. Iris also mentioned the upcoming Bushin festival that she planned to participate in because she wanted to win it. If she succeeded, she could get the full support of the people and made their father or the king and the high officials to listen to what she wanted to say. Alexia worried that the cults and the Shadow Garden members might be involved in the Bushin festival again. But Iris was not swayed by this, even though she knew that the members of the Shadow Garden, especially Shadow, possessed great power. In case the cults and Shadow Gardens interfere with the Bushin festival, they must be defeated. While Rose was on her training, she suddenly felt something in her chest and was surprised by what she saw there. At the beginning of the Bushin festival, those who wanted to participate in it came from different places. Meanwhile, Cid was just at the top of a building and watched those who wanted to join. He also planned to join it and would just pretend to be a weak participant, so that the viewers would be surprised by what he would show in the contest. He went to Gamma and asked her help with his plan to change his appearance. So she brought out Beta's invention, which was able to change a person's entire appearance. She also recommended the persona of Mundane Man, and Cid agreed to it. After the session, they succeeded in copying the exact face and body of Mundane Man. While Cid was outside in the person of Mundane Man, he met Anne Rose. Because of Cid's appearance, Anne Rose advised him not to participate in the Bushin festival. So Cid answered and told her not to judge a person by the outward appearance, and then he left. But he actually liked Anne Rose's reaction because he succeeded in his disguise. He was stopped by a man who introduced himself as Quentin, who always participated in the Bushin festival. Quentin told him that he did not want to see weaklings like him. But he got angry when he was told that he was even weaker. He beat Cid, who was just pretending to be hurt in Quentin's punches. But Anne Rose spoke and asked him to stop, so Quentin left and Anne Rose approached Cid. She intended to heal the injuries he suffered, but she was told that he no longer needed it. Before Cid left, they introduced themselves to each other. After he registered in the contest, he met and talked to Skell. Skell planned to bet on the battles that would take place at the Bushin festival. Since the contest would begin in the preliminary, he would get there the data of his potential participants. He also told Cid the possible winners in the tournament, and these include Iris and Rose. In the evening, while Cid was on his way home, he met Rose. She mentioned to him that her father introduced her to her fiancé, who was Perv Ashat. Then Rose stated to reveal her reason why she chose to hold the sword. She also disobeyed the wishes of the people around her to follow the art and culture for which their area was known. She added that her interest in holding a sword started when he was saved by a man who also uses a sword. Before Rose left, she asked Cid if he would trust her no matter what happens. Cid said yes to Rose and gave her the food he bought. The next day, Skell took Cid to watch the battle in the preliminary. As he said, he needed to collect the data for potential participants that he could bet on. Then they met Gold Yu, who was also one of the participants, and he offered to help Skell in choosing the strongest participants. Cid left for a while because Mundane Man would fight next, and his opponent was named Gonzalez. Goldu said that as far as he could observe, Gonzalez had a power level of 1364 while Mundane Man has only a power level of 33. When the fight started, they were all surprised when Gonzalez fell first. With the speed of Mundane's attack, other people did not see it but Anaros did. Out of embarrassment, Goldu tried to reason for his miscalculations, but he assured on Skell that things would change since he would fight Mundane tomorrow. So he told Skell that he should know already who he would bet on. When Cid returned, Skell immediately asked him for funds to bet tomorrow because they were surely win. While Cid was resting, Skell hurriedly went to his room to show him the content of the newspaper. The news was about Rose, who allegedly stabbed her fiancé, Perv Asshat, and her whereabouts was not yet known. After finding out what happened to Rose, Alexia and Beta immediately met to discuss it. They learned that the Kingdom of Oriana did not want the Kingdom of Midgar to interfere in the resolution of this case. They were worried that Rose might be subjected to severe punishment because Rose's fiancé was the son of a Duke of Oriana. They just felt relieved knowing that this would not lead to the death penalty because Rose was a princess. Alexia wanted to see and to talk to Rose to know her side before Oriana's soldiers capture her. Beta told her that she would gather information. She also heard things that were not good about Rose's fiancé, so she would look into it as well. While Alexia would try to talk to Iris to ask for advice. After Alexia left, Beta ordered a Shadow Garden member to give Alexia information about Perv Asshat and the Oriana royal family. So Alexia would be busy thinking more about it and could not act immediately. Meanwhile, Rose was currently in an underground tunnel because of the complex passages there. She chose it as a good hiding place. Cid and Skell watched the contest, and when Cid came downstairs he met a woman who told him that she could smell an elf on him. The woman told him that she was looking for her sister's daughter and maybe he knew an elf who looked like her. When the woman removed her hood, Cid immediately thought of Alpha. But Cid answered that he did not know anyone who looked like her. Then suddenly she attacked Cid, who pretended to be shocked and scared. The woman thought he was strong, but she made a mistake and helped Cid to get up. So he asked for her name and she introduced herself as Beatrix. While Anaros was watching the contest, Quentin approached her and they talked about the Mundane man's fight the other day. They also mentioned Goldu, who would compete with Mundane on this day. According to Anaros, Goldu was known as the unbeaten legend because he retreated immediately when he knew that his opponent was stronger than him. She knew this because they would have faced each other 3 times in the tournament, but he always backed out before their match. They thought that he had a strong sense on the participant's ability, which could be the reason why he did not back down from Mundane Man. When the fight started, Goldu immediately attacked, but Mundane was able to dodge it. Goldu saw what could happen to him if he continued, so he immediately retreated. Quentin did not see what Mundane did, but Anaros only heard something snapping on Mundane's neck. Goldu was very angry because Mundane did not even show frustration at the wasted opportunity to defeat him. So he used the golden dragon blade to finish off his opponent, but when he got close, Mundane just sneezed and shoved him back. Because of this, Mundane Man has won and people could not believe the quick turn of events. Anaros tried to reason by saying that maybe Mundane was not used to the shiny armor of Goldie, so he sneezed. Quentin did not believe it this time and said that if Mundane keeps winning, he would face him in the preliminary finals. He left. Iris talked to Perv Asshat and asked him if he was sure that he did not need additional security to protect him. Perv Asshat understood what Iris was doing because of the abduction of Alexia. While the King of Oriana repeatedly mentioned to follow the orders of Perv Asshat. But his words annoyed Iris so much. When the preliminary finals came, Mundane quickly defeated Quentin. Because of this, Mundane was already in the main tournament and he would face Anaros in the first round. The viewers were confused whether to bet on Mundane or not. Meanwhile, Rose was seen by those who were looking for her and she was forced to fight them. Although she hit the guards with her sword, she made sure not to hit its vitals. She also immediately ran because others were approaching and continued chasing her. While Cid was thinking about the upcoming contest, Skell visited him to show the reward to whoever could catch or could provide information on Rose's whereabouts. Skell wanted them to do it so they could get the reward. When Cid saw Claire entering the house, he immediately got dressed and pulled Skell out to start their operation to find Rose. Skell did not know that this was just a way for Cid to pass the time while his sister was still not in good mood. Then he heard the sound of a piano and remembered his past life as a good pianist too. While listening to it, he realized that it was his favorite Moonlight Sonata. He immediately wondered why anyone in this world knew the Moonlight Sonata, so he also thought that the person playing it might be reincarnated like him. When he entered the building, it was just Epsilon who also applied what she learned from him. After she played the piano, they talked and she mentioned that she had received an award from the royal family because of her piano performance. She informed Cid that she was also invited by the Kingdom of Oriana. Similarly, it was an opportunity for her to do both her career as pianist and her duties as a member of the Shadow Garden. So Cid asked her if she knew or had any information about Rose's whereabouts. Since Beta was assigned about it, Epsilon did not have much information, but she only knew that Rose was hiding in an underground tunnel. So Cid bid goodbye and left to continue the search. Meanwhile, Beta and Alexia met to discuss the status of their search for Rose. Alexia mentioned what Iris said about what she noticed. The king of Oriana seemed strange when her sister went to see him. Beta asked her where the stairs would lead them. Then Alexia answered that it was going to the underground tunnel and they would try to find Rose there. Rose on the other hand was getting weak from fighting those who wanted to seize her. At that moment, she remembered the times in their palace when she saw her father who was acting strange and not himself anymore. She immediately found out that this was done by Perv and that other officials in the kingdom were involved in doing this to the king. In her anger she attacked Perv who got injured, and she realized that she fell into their trap so they could arrest her. She knew that Perv was a member of the cult and its other members were currently scattered in the kingdom of Oriana. She was thinking of giving up because the innocent soldiers of their kingdom who were dragged into this situation were only following orders and were hurt by her. He remembered Cid and how he told her that he trusted her. Suddenly she felt excruciating pain from her chest because of the curse on her body. When she heard the Moonlight Sonata, she stood up and continued walking. In the distance, she was surprised to see Shadow playing the piano. While she was clapping at the beautiful music, Shadow stood up and asked her about her current plans. Rose sadly replied that she wanted to protect her loved ones, but she could not do anything in her current situation. Hearing this from her, he decided to give her power, and the curse on her body disappeared. After a while, those chasing her appeared to attack her. She then tried the power that Shadow gave to her. Alexia felt the great power somewhere, so she hurried to go to where it was. Then she saw Rose walking towards them, so they approached her. Alexia wanted to know the real reason why she did that to Perv, but Rose did not want to answer it because she did not want them to be involved in this mess. But Alexia got angry and attacked, which caused the fight between them. A few moments later, Beta saw Rose coming and carrying Alexia, who was unconscious. She left Alexia on Beta's care. Before she could leave, Beta told her that she would not stop her from what she wanted to do and hoped that she succeed on her plans. After what she said, Rose immediately left. When Cid returned to his lodging, Claire was still there patiently waiting for him. In Claire's anger, she strangled him, and only then he realized that his sister's anger was getting worse as time went on. She gave him a ticket for the Bushin Festival for him to watch the fight because she would be representing their school instead of Rosé. One day, Alexia visited Beta in her office, but she had already left. She was informed that Beta had to do research abroad, but left her an envelope containing information about the Kingdom of Oriana that Alexia could use. The main tournament of the Bushin Festival had started, and Cid did not expect that it was a VIP ticket that he received from Claire. He also saw Iris there, and they were sitting next to each other. Iris apologized to Cid for mistaking him of Alexia's disappearance before, which was Zenon's doing. They talked about Alexia and he told her about what she did to him before. She mentioned that she wanted to see someone, but it was not a participant in the Bushin Festival. It was the elf swordmaster called the War Goddess. Her name was Beatrix, who won the Bushin Festival for the first time, and it was possible that she was there somewhere in the area. Cid suddenly remembered the elf he knew who looked like Alpha. Then he excused himself for a while because his match would be announced next. While walking he felt a great power. It turned out to be Beatrix, and she asked him again if he had seen an elf that looked like her. She said that she might find there what she was looking for because there were many people attended the contest. Perv approached Iris and they talk about the ongoing fight between Anaros and Mundane Man. Iris mentioned that even though Mundane looks weak, she was still not sure that Anaros would win because Mundane Man seemed not bothered by his fight. Anaros remembered Mundane's past battles and she knew that he had not yet unleashed his true strength. When the fight started, Anaros immediately attacked, but Mundane was able to block and avoid it. After a while, Mundane started to attack, and she was surprised by its speed. So she prepared a counter on Mundane's next attack. After his attack, she did not expect that he was able to calculate the right distance to avoid her counterattack. This was the reason why Anaros was defeated and Mundane won the fight. Iris was impressed by this, but they could not believe how Mundane managed to win. They also noticed his unique style of holding the sword. Since the next fight was between her and Mundane, she felt that Mundane was still hiding something, but she did not want to lose in their fight. When Iris left, Perv also left the errand and ordered his staff to find out more about Mundane because he suspected that he was from the underworld. Meanwhile, Anaros approached Mundane to congratulate him on winning in their match. She offered him to go with her in Velgalta, but he refused and told her that he might not fit in there. After Iris defeated her opponent, she saw Beatrix leaving the arena, so she chased after her. When she approached her in the plaza, Beatrix offered her some food. The next day, Cid returned to the VIP's place to watch the contest. Iris also arrived to watch, and a few minutes later they saw Beatrix being prevented from entering by the guards. Iris went to them and told the guards that she was the one who invited her. The guards were surprised to learn that this woman was Beatrix, while Perv continued in giving Rose's father the medicine so they could easily control him. Together with the King of Midgar, they would also watch the contest. Perv's staffs had finished searching about Mundane's background, but they failed to get any information. This confirmed his suspicion that Mundane might actually be from the underworld. When they passed in front of Beatrix, he was told by her that he smelled bad. In Perv's anger, he ordered her out of the arena, but when Iris said Beatrix's name, he was surprised and let it go. He wondered why Beatrix was there and wanted to kill her too. But he did not know how to do it because he knew that she was skilled than Iris. Claire's fight was over, and next was the fight between Mundane and Iris. When the fight started, Iris felt strange that she was attacked by him caused her to retreat immediately. Her imagination continued that she was constantly being hit by Mundane's attacks. When Rose arrived at the arena of the Bushin Festival, she saw the dead bodies of the cultists on the floor. Then Beta and other Shadow Garden members showed up and told her to continue what she intended to do. Iris noticed that with every slight movement of Mundane's arm she felt that she was being attacked. The audience began to notice how Iris reacted and thought that she was scared. This pissed her off, so she released her intense power and immediately rushed at Mundane. When she was close to Mundane, she noticed that he was not holding his sword, which Mundane was holding earlier. He dodged her attack and managed to knock her down as well. When his sword was pointed at her, and since her sword was also destroyed, Mundane was declared the winner in the fight. The King of Midgar left immediately, and Perv got worried about what he saw. While Beatrix was amazed at Mundane's technique, she also said that she wanted to fight him. Rose suddenly appeared and confronted Perv and his father. She apologized to her father for the things she did. Suddenly, her father spoke and said that he forgave her, which surprised Perv. Then Rose suddenly attacked, but Perv immediately turned Rose's father into a shield, causing him to be stabbed by her instead. After the death of her father, she intended to end her life too. Perv immediately ordered his men to stop her from doing it to herself. Suddenly, Mundane intervened and killed Perv's guards. Rose remembered the man who saved her when she was young and inspired her to wield a sword. After Mundane transformed back into Shadow, Rose recognized him as the stylish bandit slayer. She told the story when she met this stylish bandit slayer. She was amazed as Shadow was trying to fight against evil, but she felt embarrassed because she chose to kill herself to end the pain she felt. But Shadow told her that her battle was not over yet. Then she looked at her father, who was lying on the ground. She ran to escape, and Shadow stopped Perv from chasing after her. When Perv called his other guards, it turned out that all of them were killed by Beta and the others. Beatrix suddenly attacked Shadow, and with the great force of the impact from the attack, the building was gradually being destroyed, so Perv immediately left there. Their fight continued at the top of a building. Shadow suddenly disappeared and went to Beatrix's back, which surprised her by his speed. Iris came with the mithril blade and told Beatrix that they will fight together against him. She used the power of the mithril blade twice on him, but he just dodged it both times. Beatrix attacked him and their fight continued. When Rose was far away, she met Alpha. She offered Rose to choose whether she would fight alone to save the kingdom of Oriana or she would cooperate with the Shadow Garden. Since Rose could feel that the Shadow Garden could help her to save Oriana, she chose to cooperate with the group. On the other hand, the fight still between Shadow and Beatrix continued until they reached in other parts of the city. Iris told Beatrix that she would do anything to stop him, and she wanted her to take this opportunity to attack Shadow. While they were doing this plan, it still did not work because of his strength and speed, causing them to be both beaten by him. When Iris and Beatrix stood up, Shadow released a strong power that stunned the two while watching him. Suddenly the whole city lit up, and then Shadow disappeared from their sight. Iris was so annoyed on the outcome of the fight, that all she could do was to burst into tears. While Beatrix decided to leave Midgar even though she had not yet found her niece. Beta said that Shadow succeeded in making Midgar busy in their search for him. In this case, Midgar would not be involved in the chaos in Oriana. A few days later, students began to be admitted back to school. And Shadow continued to pretend as an ordinary and weak student. On the other hand, Alpha took Rose and they went straight to the ancient capital Alexandria, where the Shadow Garden's hideout was located. Alpha told Lambda to train Rose until she developed her true abilities, So Lambda called their 2 members to let them know that Rose would be included in their group. And this was the end of Season 1 of the Eminence in Shadow.
How was the video? We hope it was good. If so, please check these videos. Also, please comment down your thoughts and your suggestions for future videos. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing now to show the support to our channel. We hope to see you soon with another video right in this channel. Have a nice day.